The Galactic Assembly Hall was older than most civilizations. It floated in the center of neutral space, a colossal ring of silver alloy large enough to house oceans, cities, and forests beneath its transparent dome. For thousands of cycles, the most powerful species in the galaxy had gathered there to debate war, peace, trade, and the fate of entire star systems. But on this particular cycle, the Assembly had gathered for something far more controversial. The exile of humanity. Rows upon rows of alien delegates filled the hall. Tall insectoid diplomats clicked their mandibles impatiently. Massive reptilian warlords coiled their tails around their seats. Ethereal energy beings flickered like living auroras above crystalline platforms. At the center of the chamber stood a single human, Ambassador Elias Ward. He wore a simple black uniform with the blue and white emblem of the Terran Union on his chest. Compared to the towering species around him, he looked small, fragile even, but his posture was calm. Too calm. High Chancellor Vorith of the Threx Dominion rose from his throne-like platform. The reptilian leader's scales shimmered dark green under the assembly lights. Ambassador Ward, Vorith hissed, his voice amplified across the chamber. The Council has deliberated. Humanity has become unpredictable. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. Vorith continued. You interfere in wars that are not yours. You uplift primitive civilizations without permission. You alter the balance of power across entire sectors. Another alien delegate, a six-limbed being from the Valkyrie Combine, raised a claw. Not to mention, it added, your species has invented technologies we cannot replicate. Technologies you refuse to share. Ward simply listened. A holographic screen appeared above the chamber, displaying images. Human ships evacuating alien refugees during a war. Human engineers repairing a dying star reactor. Human fleets standing between two warring civilizations and forcing them into peace talks. To humanity, these were acts of compassion. To the rest of the galaxy, they were acts of dangerous interference. Vorith's eyes narrowed. The Assembly has reached a decision. The chamber fell silent. The Terran Union is hereby expelled from the Galactic Compact. Humanity will withdraw from all Council space. Your species will have no vote, no representation, and no protection under galactic law. A ripple of satisfaction passed through many of the alien delegates. They had finally done it. Humanity removed. Vorith finished the decree. You will return to your systems and remain isolated from the affairs of the galaxy. He leaned forward. Humanity is officially exiled. The hall waited. Everyone expected outrage. Perhaps threats. Maybe even the declaration of war. Instead, Ambassador Elias Ward smiled. Not a forced diplomatic smile. A genuine grin. And that made several delegates uneasy. Ward slowly pressed a button on the small datapad in front of him. Understood, he said calmly. His voice carried easily through the chamber. The Terran Union acknowledges the Assembly's decision. Vorith blinked. That is all. Ward shrugged. That's all. The silence that followed was almost uncomfortable. Finally, one of the insectoid delegates clicked its mandibles. You do not protest? No. You do not threaten retaliation? No. You simply accept exile? Ward tilted his head slightly. Well, he said, you voted. Democracy and all that. More whispers spread through the chamber. This was not the reaction anyone expected. Vorith studied the human carefully. You seem unusually calm for a species that has just been removed from galactic civilization. Ward leaned back slightly. Chancellor, he said gently, with respect, humanity has always been a little different. He stood. His chair slid quietly back. If the Council's decision is final, Ward continued, we'll begin our withdrawal immediately. Vorith gave a slow nod. It is final. Ward picked up his datapad. Well then, he said. Good luck. And with that, he turned and walked out of the chamber. The doors closed behind him with a soft metallic thud. For several long seconds, the Assembly simply sat there. Confused. Something about that human's reaction felt wrong. 2 weeks later, humanity began leaving. At first, the withdrawal seemed orderly. Human embassies across dozens of alien worlds quietly closed their doors. Terran trade fleets returned home. Scientific outposts were dismantled. Human diplomats said their polite goodbyes and departed. Across the galaxy, news networks reported the same message. Humanity was complying with the Exile decree. But then, the doors began to close. Not metaphorical doors. Real ones. Massive gravitational gates. Across the border systems of Terran space, enormous structures activated for the first time. They were called Aegis gates. Gigantic rings hundreds of kilometers wide, each humming with energy that bent space itself. Alien observers watched nervously as the gates powered up. And then, the gates sealed. Space around them twisted like glass. From that moment forward, Terran space was unreachable. No ship could cross the boundary. No signal could pass through. Humanity had literally shut the door on the galaxy. Back in the assembly, panic slowly began to grow. What exactly did the humans do? Demanded Chancellor Vorith. A Valkyrie analyst displayed the data. Each gate generates a localized dimensional barrier, the analyst explained. It isolates Terran systems from normal space. Can we break through it? No. Disable it? No. Go around it? The analyst hesitated. Also no. Vorith's tail slammed against the floor. How is that possible? Another voice answered from the back of the chamber. Because humans build things differently. The speaker was Elder Tren of the ancient Lyri species. Unlike the others, the Lyri had not voted for exile. Their kind had watched humanity carefully. And they had seen something the others had missed. Tren's glowing eyes flickered thoughtfully. Humans do not think in decades, the elder said softly. They think in centuries. The assembly grew quiet. Tren continued. The gates that now isolate Terran space were not built recently. The elder tapped a console. Historical data appeared. Construction permits. Mining operations. Energy signatures. Humanity began building those structures nearly 80 years ago. Shock spread across the chamber. 80 years. Vorith hissed. Yes. Tren folded their hands. They planned this long before your vote. The realization hit the room like a meteor. Humanity had expected exile. And they had prepared for it. For nearly a century. Years passed. At first, the galaxy celebrated. Without humans interfering, old rivalries returned. Empires expanded. Wars resumed. Trade monopolies flourished. Many leaders declared the exile a success. But gradually, problems began appearing. Human engineers had maintained half the galaxy's infrastructure. Now reactors began failing. Human mediators had prevented dozens of border conflicts. Now wars escalated. Human trade routes had supplied critical materials. Now shortages spread across sectors. The galaxy slowly realized something terrifying. Humanity had been holding everything together. And now they were gone. 20 years after the exile vote, the first delegation approached the Aegis gates. A diplomatic fleet from the Valkyrie Combine. Their ships stopped at the boundary of Terran space. A message was transmitted. It bounced off the barrier. Again. And again. Finally, after 3 days, something changed. A small opening appeared in the dimensional field. Just wide enough for a single transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. It wasn't Ambassador Ward. This one wore the uniform of the Terran Defense Fleet. State your business, the officer said calmly. The Valkyrie ambassador bowed slightly. We request diplomatic dialogue with the Terran Union. The human officer tilted their head. About what? The Valkyrie hesitated. Trade. The officer thought about it for a moment, then smiled slightly. Sorry, they said. The doors closed. The transmission ended. And the gate sealed again. Over the next decade, more delegations came. Reptilian warlords. Insectoid collectives. Energy-based civilizations. Each one requested the same thing. Access. Trade. Alliance. And each time the answer was the same. The door remained closed. Until the day the galaxy truly needed humanity. It began with a signal from the outer rim. A faint distress call. Then another. And another. Entire star systems began going silent. Ships disappeared. Colonies vanished overnight. No debris. No survivors. Just empty worlds. At first, the Assembly blamed pirates. Then rogue AI. Then natural disasters. But the pattern spread. Sector after sector went dark. Finally, a surviving scout ship brought back images. And the galaxy froze in horror. The enemy was not a fleet. It was a swarm. A massive, living armada of biomechanical organisms the size of cities. They devoured stars, consumed planets, and multiplied endlessly. Ancient records from the Lyri named them. The Silence, a species older than most galaxies. A predator that consumed entire civilizations. The Lyri elders spoke quietly in the emergency council. They wiped out our creators, Tren said. And now they have returned. The Assembly panicked. Fleet after fleet was sent against the swarm. None returned. Entire empires collapsed within months. In desperation, Chancellor Vorith finally spoke the words he once swore he never would. Send a message to humanity. The diplomatic fleet that approached the Aegis gates this time was enormous. Hundreds of ships, representing every surviving civilization in the galaxy. They waited. Hours passed. Then the gate opened. A massive Terran warship emerged. It dwarfed every vessel in the alien fleet. The name on its hull read, TSV Horizon Unbroken. A human admiral appeared on the screen. State your business. Chancellor Vorith stepped forward. For the first time in his life, the reptilian leader bowed his head. We require your assistance. The admiral's eyes studied the fleet silently. And why, she asked calmly, would humanity help a galaxy that exiled us? Vorith hesitated. He had no answer. But another voice spoke. Elder Tren. Because, the Lyri said gently, that is what humans do. The admiral looked at the elder for a long moment. Then she sighed. Yeah, she said. That sounds like us. She turned to someone off-screen. Open the door. Behind her, the Aegis gates began to unfold. And for the first time in 30 years, humanity stepped back into the galaxy. Not as exiles, but as its last hope. The war lasted 6 years. Human fleets fought differently than any species had ever seen. They didn't just attack the Silence. They studied it, adapted, evolved tactics faster than the enemy could respond. Terran engineers designed weapons that collapsed entire swarms. Human pilots executed maneuvers other species considered suicidal. And slowly, the Silence began to retreat, then break, then die. In the final battle above a dying star, the Terran flagship delivered the strike that ended the swarm forever. When the war was over, the galaxy stood stunned. Humanity had saved them. Again. Months later, the Galactic Assembly reconvened. The chamber felt smaller than before. Because this time, humanity was not standing alone. Behind Ambassador Elias Ward stood representatives from dozens of alien species. Species humanity had saved during the war. Ward addressed the chamber calmly. The Terran Union accepts the Assembly's apology. Vorith lowered his head. We were wrong. Ward nodded slightly. Yeah, he said. You were. The chamber waited. What happens now? Someone asked. Ward smiled. The same thing that always happens. He looked around the hall. Humanity moves forward. He paused. But this time, his grin returned. We're leaving the door open. And that is how the galaxy learned an unforgettable lesson. Never exile the species that built the door. Because one day, you might need them to open it again.